morning of my son Jason's wedding, I straightened my rented tux in the mirror, my calloused hands still rough, despite the manicure he had insisted on. 20 years of raising him alone after his mother left, working 2 jobs, attending every baseball game, teaching him to be a good man, had led to this moment. I never finished college, but I had given him everything so he could. Now he was marrying into the Harrison family, old money, prestigious degrees, and judgmental eyes that had been sizing me up since day one. Before I dive into what happened next, where are you watching from today? Hit that like and subscribe button. Trust me, you will want to see how this family drama unfolds. I was born in Millfield, Ohio, a town so small it barely registered on state maps. My parents worked at the local factory, putting in 60-hour weeks just to keep our modest home. They taught me the value of honest work and treating people right, lessons I carried with me even after they were gone. College was never really in the cards for me, but I gave it a shot anyway, working nights at a gas station to pay for community college classes. Then Marie got pregnant during our second semester. She was beautiful, smart, studying to be a nurse, and terrified of telling her parents. I dropped out immediately, proposed with a ring I could not afford, and picked up a second job at the auto shop. By 22, I was a father, a husband, and working 16 hours daily between construction sites and fixing cars. Jason came into the world on a rainy Tuesday, all red-faced and loud. The moment the nurse placed him in my arms, I swore I would give this boy everything I never had. Marie seemed happy at first, taking to motherhood like she was born for it. But I saw the light dim in her eyes with each passing month as she watched her friends continue their education while she changed diapers. I will never forget that Thursday morning. Jason was 3 years old. I came home from my overnight shift to find Marie gone, a note on the kitchen counter. "I cannot do this anymore, Leo. I am suffocating. Jason deserves a mother who wants this life. I do not. I am sorry. No goodbye to our son. No forwarding address." Just vanished as if those 5 years together meant nothing. I collapsed on the kitchen floor, sobbing until Jason waddled over, patting my cheek with his tiny hand. "Daddy sad?" he asked. In that moment, I pulled myself together. This boy would not grow up feeling abandoned. I would be everything he needed. The first year alone was brutal. Daycare costs ate half my paycheck. I learned to cook from library books, studied hair braiding from YouTube videos for his first school pictures, and stayed up nights sewing Halloween costumes. I turned down a foreman position that would have doubled my salary because it meant traveling to job sites across state lines. Instead, I took a stable job at Miller's auto shop, working my way up to head mechanic within 3 years. Every school conference I showed up in my cleanest work shirt, still smelling of motor oil. While other parents discussed summer homes and European vacations, I took notes about Jason's progress, determined that my limited education would not hold him back. When he needed help with advanced math homework, I studied alongside him, learning algebra at 35 just to help with his equations. Jason blossomed, despite our modest means. He inherited my work ethic, but none of my academic struggles. By high school, he was taking advanced placement classes, captain of the debate team, and working weekends at the library. His teachers used words like exceptional and gifted, terms no one had ever applied to me. When the acceptance letter from Westmore University arrived with a full academic scholarship, I wept with pride. 4 generations of Grays had worked with their hands, and now my son would work with his mind. I drove him to campus in my rusted pickup truck, painfully aware of the luxury vehicles surrounding us in the freshman parking lot. "You sure you do not want me to help you unpack?" I asked, noticing the designer clothes and confident postures of the other parents. "No way," Jason replied, pulling me into a hug. "I want to introduce my dad to everyone." It was at Westmore that Jason met Amelia Harrison during their sophomore business ethics class. Their study group became coffee dates, then dinner dates, then suddenly they were inseparable. The first time he mentioned her family name, I felt a pang of worry. The Harristons owned half the real estate in Boston and had buildings named after them at 3 different universities. Still, Jason assured me that Amelia was different, humble, kind, and genuinely in love with him, not his background. When he called 3 years later to announce their engagement, I was overjoyed for him, but terrified at the prospect of entering their world. The first dinner with the Harristons confirmed my worst fears. Their Boston mansion had more bathrooms than my entire house could fit inside. Mrs. Harrison Catherine wore pearls to a casual family dinner, and examined my hands stained with decades of engine grease that no amount of scrubbing could fully remove before offering the lightest handshake possible. So Leopold Mr. Harriston James said while swirling a glass of wine that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Jason tells us, "You fix cars. I own Miller's Auto Shop now, sir. Bought it from the previous owner 5 years ago. We specialize in American classics and foreign imports." How quaint, Catherine murmured. And before Jason's mother left, what did she do? The bluntness of her question caught me off guard. She was studying nursing before. Yes, I see, she interrupted, clearly uninterested in my complete answer. Well, Jason certainly overcame his circumstances admirably. Throughout dinner, they discussed summer homes I had never visited, people I had never heard of, and schools I could never afford. When the conversation turned to politics, my simple observations were met with patronizing smiles and quick subject changes. Jason, seated beside Amelia, kept throwing me apologetic glances. After dinner, he found me in the garden, ostensibly admiring their roses, but actually catching my breath. "I am sorry, Dad," he whispered. "They are just protective. They think I am not good enough for their circle," I replied, stating the obvious. "You are good enough for any circle," Jason said firmly. "Without you, I would not be who I am. They will see that eventually." As wedding preparations began, the subtle exclusion grew more obvious. Catherine took over planning scheduling meetings during my work hours, despite knowing I could not attend. When I offered to contribute financially, I had saved $10,000 for this day since Jason was a child. Mr. Harriston waved it away. "No need to strain yourself," he said, with false generosity. "We have it covered. Perhaps you could handle the rehearsal dinner music playlist. Something simple." Even that task was taken from me when Catherine decided a string quartet would be more appropriate than my carefully curated collection of songs that had meaning to Jason growing up. At the wedding shower, I overheard Amelia's older sister in the hallway. "Can you imagine growing up like that? No mother raised by a mechanic in some backwater town. It is amazing Jason speaks so well." I retreated to the bathroom, splashing water on my face. The mirror reflected a man with graying temples and weathered skin, honest marks of a life spent providing, but all they saw was someone unworthy of their daughter's marriage. The night before the rehearsal dinner, Jason called, his voice tight with stress. "Dad, would you be offended if you sat at table 6 instead of the main table tomorrow night? Amelia's mom thinks there should be a certain arrangement for immediate family and I." "It is fine, son," I interrupted, swallowing my hurt. "Whatever makes the day easier." At the rehearsal dinner, I found myself seated with distant cousins and college friends who barely acknowledged my presence. Across the room, Jason sat beside Amelia, flanked by both sets of parents, except Catherine had placed her sister where I should have been. Amelia's younger sister, Bridget, stopped by my table, champagne glass in hand. "So you actually built hot rods, or whatever that must be like fun. Do people in your neighborhood actually race them down Main Street?" She laughed at her own joke loud enough for nearby tables to turn. That night alone in my hotel room, I seriously considered not attending the wedding. Jason would be embarrassed by me. The contrast between the Harristons and myself would only be more pronounced. I picked up the phone to make my excuses, then set it down again. This was not about me or my pride. This was about being there for my son on the most important day of his life. The next morning, Jason stopped by unexpectedly. "Had to escape wedding madness for a bit," he explained, sitting on my bed as I knotted my tie. "Having cold feet," I asked. "About marrying Amelia, never. About marrying into her family." He shrugged. "Sometimes I wonder if I will ever be good enough for them." I turned from the mirror, surprised. "Son, you are a graduate of Westmore University with honors. You have a fantastic job at that investment firm. You are more than good enough." But I did not grow up summering in Martha's Vineyard or attending elite boarding schools. And I am proud of that, Dad. I am proud of us. His eyes grew serious. "Promise me you will come today no matter what. I need you there." Wild horses could not keep me away. I promised, giving him a hug. In my hands, I held my own father's vintage pocket watch, my only real heirloom, carefully restored and engraved with a message for Jason. The Harriston estate had been transformed into something from a fairy tale. Thousands of white roses and lilies adorned every surface. A string quartet played as guests in designer suits and dresses mingled on manicured lawns. The wedding planner, a stern woman with a clipboard, directed me away from the preparation areas when I arrived early to help. Family is in the east wing. Groomsmen in the west parlor, she said without looking up. I am family. The father of the groom, I clarified. She glanced up surprise and something like disappointment crossing her face. Oh, Mr. Gray. Yes, well, everything is handled. Perhaps just take a seat. During the ceremony, I sat in the front row watching my son stand tall at the altar. When Jason turned and saw me, his face broke into a genuine smile that transported me back 20 years, the same smile when he rode a bike for the first time, when he won the science fair, when he graduated as valedictorian. Amelia was radiant as she walked down the aisle on her father's arm. The vows were beautiful, personal, and brought tears to my eyes. For a moment, as they sealed their commitment with a kiss, the divisions between families disappeared. We were all simply people celebrating love. That unity was short-lived. At the reception, I searched for my seat assignment, finally locating my name at the very last table far from the dance floor and behind a large floral arrangement. I picked up my nameplate to confirm and froze. Instead of Leopold Gray, father of the groom, it read, Leopold Gray, low-educated fake dad. I stared at it, certain I was misreading. But the words remained mockingly clear. A burst of laughter drew my attention to a nearby table where Amelia's brother Thomas and two cousins were watching me snickering behind champagne flutes. Classic, Thomas said loud enough for me to hear. Think he can read it. I heard he never even finished community college. The hurt was physical, a tightness in my chest that made it hard to breathe. I set the nameplate down, face burning with humiliation. 20 years of sacrificing everything for my son reduced to a cruel joke for rich kids' amusement. A server approached with champagne. Sir, would you like to be seated elsewhere? There seems to be a mistake with your place card. No, I said quietly. This is fine. I sat alone at the empty table, watching as the room filled with joy that excluded me. Memories flooded back, teaching Jason to ride a bike with training wheels. I could barely afford staying up 3 nights straight working overtime to pay for his first computer, driving 8 hours to pick him up when he got stranded on a school trip because I could not afford a plane ticket. I had given this boy everything I had. I considered slipping out quietly. The father-son dance was hours away. No one would notice my absence until then. But as I contemplated leaving, I spotted Catherine Harrison noticing my nameplate. Her eyes widened briefly before she whispered something to her husband. Instead of correcting the situation, they simply moved to another conversation group, pretending not to have seen. That was when I knew I would stay. Not out of pride, but because my son deserved better than a father who ran from cruelty. Jason had never been ashamed of me. I would not start being ashamed of myself now. The main course was being served when Jason finally broke free from greeting guests to find me. Dad, what are you doing all the way back here? You should be at the family table with us. Before I could answer, he glanced down at my nameplate. His easy smile vanished, replaced by something I had rarely seen, pure, cold anger. Who did this? He asked, voice dangerously quiet. It does not matter, son. Let us not make a scene at your wedding. But Jason had already spotted Thomas and his friends, still throwing glances our way and chuckling. He picked up my nameplate and walked directly to their table, Amelia noticing and following quickly behind him. Is this your idea of a joke? Jason demanded, placing the nameplate in front of his new brother-in-law. Thomas smirked. Come on, it is just a bit of fun. No harm. No harm. This man raised me single-handedly after your sister's age. Worked 80-hour weeks to put food on our table. Never missed a single school event. And you mock him at my wedding. The room fell silent. Conversations dying as guests turned to watch. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison approached rapidly, Catherine, attempting damage control. Jason, darling, perhaps this is a conversation for later. No, Mother Catherine. It is not, Amelia interrupted, standing firmly beside my son. This is unacceptable. Jason turned, scanning the room filled with uncomfortable guests, then looked directly at me. His voice carried across the silent reception hall. Dad, let us show them what family really means. Jason strode to the band, took the microphone, and silenced the room with a gentle tap. I was planning to save my speech for later, but something has happened that cannot wait. He began, voice steady, despite his obvious emotion. Many of you know me as Jason Gray Westmore, graduate investment analyst husband to the incredible Amelia. What some of you might not know is the man who made all of that possible. He gestured toward me, and suddenly every eye in the room turned in my direction. That man sitting in the back corner is Leopold Gray, my father. When I was 3 years old, my mother decided family life was not for her and walked out. From that day forward, my dad became everything to me: mother, father, teacher, coach, mentor, and friend. Jason's voice cracked slightly. He worked 2 full-time jobs to move us to a better school district. He learned to French braid my cousin Sarah's hair for her dance recitals when her own parents were too busy. He sat up all night helping me with calculus homework he never took himself, learning alongside me from my textbooks. I watched astonished. As Jason revealed moments, I thought no one had noticed the time I sold my prized vintage Ford parts to pay for his science camp, the night I spent in the emergency room lobby when he broke his arm, only to go straight to work without sleep. My father never finished college because he chose me instead. He gave up promotions, relationships, and opportunities, so I would never miss having a parent at home. And today, someone thought it would be funny to mock him for that sacrifice. Jason held up my nameplate. This was placed at my father's seat. Low-educated fake dad. As if education determines a person's worth. As if biology alone makes someone a parent. He set the nameplate down and continued. If being low-educated means working yourself to exhaustion to give your child a better life, then I hope to be half as uneducated as my father. If being a fake dad means showing up every single day for 20 years teaching values over vanity and loving unconditionally, then we should all aspire to such fakeness. Amelia stepped forward, taking the play/guessance microphone. I fell in love with Jason because of his kindness, his integrity, and his work ethic, all qualities he learned from Leopold. I am ashamed of what happened here today, and I want everyone to know that I stand with my husband and my new father-in-law. Thomas sat slumped in his chair, face flushed with embarrassment. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison exchanged uncomfortable glances as murmurs rippled through the crowd. Leopold Gray Jason announced, "Would you please join us at the head table where you belong?" As I stood shaky with emotion, the room erupted in applause. Guests I had never met approached to shake my hand as I made my way forward. Jason and Amelia created space between themselves at the head table, positioning me in the place of honor. Mr. Harrison approached cautiously, extending his hand. "Leopold, I owe you an apology. What happened was inexcusable, and I should have noticed sooner. Please know that my son's actions do not reflect our family values." I accepted his handshake, choosing dignity over resentment. "Thank you, James. All that matters to me is Jason's happiness." Catherine's apology came later, stiffer but seemingly genuine. Thomas eventually approached, properly chastised and avoiding eye contact. "I am sorry, Mr. Gray. It was a stupid, cruel joke." Yes, it was. I agreed, not making it easier for him. But we all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them. After dinner, I presented Jason with my father's watch. Now engraved, "Time reveals a man's true character. Yours shines bright. Love, Dad." As he read the inscription, tears filled his eyes. "This means more than any degree ever could," he whispered, embracing me tightly. In the weeks following the wedding, an unexpected shift occurred. Instead of the predicted awkward family gatherings, the Harristons seemed determined to make amends. Mr. Harrison, now insisting I call him James, invited me to a baseball game, awkwardly attempting conversation about sports and cars rather than stocks and property values. Rather than harboring resentment, I chose to see their efforts as an opportunity for growth on both sides. When Jason and Amelia returned from their honeymoon, we had our first joint family dinner at a restaurant chosen specifically for its casual atmosphere, a gesture of compromise from the Harristons. The nameplate incident was a blessing in disguise, Jason told me later. It forced everything into the open. No more pretending. With Jason's encouragement, I established a small scholarship fund for trade school students from our hometown, focusing on single parents pursuing technical education. The first year, we supported 3 students, a young mother studying automotive technology, a father learning HVAC installation, and a guardian pursuing welding certification. To my surprise, the Harristons matched my modest contribution, tripling the fund's impact. When I questioned their involvement, James admitted, "You showed us that we had been measuring success all wrong." Thomas took longer to come around, but 6 months after the wedding, he asked if he could shadow me at the auto shop for a week. "I have never actually built anything with my hands," he confessed. "Never fixed something broken." The education went both ways. I learned about investment strategies from James' art appreciation from Catherine, and found myself expanding beyond the comfortable boundaries I had built around my life. At the same time, they began to value perspectives beyond their privileged circle. One evening, as Jason and Amelia hosted a dinner at their new home, I noticed how seamlessly both families now interacted. The divisions that once seemed insurmountable had slowly eroded, replaced by genuine respect. "You know," Catherine said, sitting beside me on the patio, "I always thought parenting was about providing the right schools, the right connections, the right opportunities. But watching you with Jason, I realized it is really about being present, being consistent. We all do our best with what we have," I replied. "No parent is perfect. Some come closer than others," she said quietly, a rare moment of humility. That night, driving home to my modest house that now felt neither inadequate nor shameful, I reflected on the journey from humiliation to vindication. The true measure of education, I realized, has nothing to do with degrees hanging on walls. Real education is learning to stand firm in your values while remaining open to growth. It is teaching by example. It is choosing kindness over vengeance when given the chance. I once thought my greatest achievement was raising a son who could access the world of privilege I never knew. Now I understand my greatest achievement was raising a son who could stand in that world without forgetting where he came from or what truly matters. The wedding that began with mockery ended by bridging two worlds that rarely intersect with genuine understanding. True family, it turns out, is not defined by matching nameplates, shared genetics, or similar backgrounds. It is built through consistent love, tested by adversity, and strengthened by the courage to stand up for one another when it matters most. Have you ever had to stand up for a family member when others put them down? What does being a real parent mean to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story touched you in any way, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories of triumph over adversity, and share with someone who might need to be reminded of their worth today. Thank you for listening, and remember, your value was never determined by your education, your bank account, or anyone else's opinion of you.